Hey, 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 what is going on, IK Familia? It is your boy BN, aka Mr. Kingdom Builder, and today we are back again for what might be some form of dope sauce of a video. Maybe we'll just with some light creme, but it is still going to be a big one. Today, what I really want to talk about is a lot of things that are happening in 79 and really just give an objective view on what has happened. Before I kind of get into the big stuff here, let me just say that. Oh, sorry. This is my this is my beginning thing. It's been a minute since I made a video. I'm even forgetting my own processes. Make sure you guys sub, like, ring the notification bell, and of course join our Discord if you want to be a part of our conversation, which can be found in the description/pinned comment. Okay, the big meat of it all is that I am officially stepping down and away from leadership, management duties, any contributing tasks in 79 at the moment. There has unfortunately just been a lack of what I can only describe as not even a lack of, just loss of trust, of belief, faith, passion, and motivation to further continue in 79 based on recent happenings. It's not transgressions, transpirings. I'll just say recent events. That's a better one to go with. And in short, what has happened is that there, for however you want to dress it up, has pretty much has been a coup/mutiny that has taken place, even though the others/opposition would, I'm sure, dress it up in some kind of a nice, pretty, wrapped up gift box with a nice, pretty bow, if you will. But that is what it comes down to, and I will explain essentially what has happened and why it is that as well. And I'm not just going to give you some face value, as I'm sure people that watch my content know that I'm never just going to give you like, hey, here's this highlighted TLDR thing with no explanation, no evidence in any form. That's just not how I like to do things. I think people deserve and appreciate explanations and any kind of references that they are able to get. With that being said, what has essentially happened is, let me go and I will show you. First off, let me, if I can. Oh no, a little bit of mic issues. Okay, we're back now. Whew. So let me first off explain how 79's foundation is set up. The current foundation that we have is, and this is something that has been publicly stated, not only in our recruiting ad, but for people that have joined up, for any officers, leads, anyone and everyone knows this because it's plastered everywhere. We have this on, I think, 1 or 2 internal channels on our Discord, along with it's on our recruiting ad that we publicly post on the official IK Discord. It has been said on a few of my recruiting videos that I have put out as well. This is everywhere. It was also agreed to by, and again, this is the additional part, not the foundational part, is that it was also agreed to by any of our initial R6s and R5s that did start out with us. Again, for any new ones, the information is everywhere. It's plastered everywhere. We've even reiterated it, I think, 1 or 2 times as well, whether that be via a Discord announcement and or via server mails in the kingdom. And how everything works, and this is how we've always sold it up front. We've never lied about this. We've only been consistent and transparent, more importantly, is that the hierarchy system in 79 is myself, where if and when needed, right, I just reserve the right to make a final decision or call on things that need to happen. Again, only if and when needed, which thankfully, to my understanding, has not happened as of yet. Just, again, for clear context there. And then we focus on we focus on always trying to have things that need to be discussed, that can be discussed, start out in council. That's how it's always worked, where we will either present ideas, suggestions, share thoughts. We'll have an open discussion. If needed, we'll filter it down to a couple options, right? Maybe we already have a way we're leaning where a vote may not be needed, and then we'll action something. And if we've done that a couple times, no one ever complained. No one ever said anything in response or in resistance or in opposition to that. And then other times we will vote on things because I do believe some things are good and healthy and need to be voted on when there are possibly, as an example, multiple good options that you can choose and go from. That, I think, is an example of of one situation in which votes can happen. So we fast forward now, and we get to where we're at now, which I will show, and I'm gonna attempt to have this be the shortest video possible on the situation, is we had a presentation, right, a proposal of suggestions and discussion points that had led to where to kind of being one of the first red flags, right? And there's a couple red flags that are in here, but let me provide, right? So this was something that one of the R6 members provided, and I don't know if I said this already before, right? But our council is comprised of at least the top 7 currently, right? Active and consistent alliances, right? One leader of each. With the exception of there are 2 alliances that have a second person there. Those alliances just have not elected to remove one person yet, which is to no fault of anyone's. Right, it's just kind of out of sight, out of mind. Also, no one holds any like grudges. Let me get that out of the way too as well, for anything like that. Just stating that for prefacing context. Now we get back to the essential kind of the camel, the hump, right? The thing that, like, what is it, broke the camel's back, right? The hump, so to speak. And so now we have a suggestion that came out, right, from one of the members here that says, I had a few suggestions / discussion points for the council. So remember, how it starts off, and this is going to be very important to carry with us later on, it says, I had, not we had, or our discussion points for the council are. It's I had, as in me, as in an individual, as in singular. That is how the proposal starts off. Let me explain now, before we get into each point, is that this was not simply an I or an individual proposing these suggestions and discussion points. And again, I'm only going to speak to the facts, and again, remaining objective right throughout this, is that this we later found out. Bear in mind, this was proposed 2 days ago from record. This I don't even know how to say proposed, but these suggestions, right, discussion points, were provided 2 days ago from the recording of this video. And at that time, what I did not know until just yesterday, which is a day after the fact, is that, because I'm reading this like, oh, this is so cool. This person is suggesting these things, right? Let me reply, and I gave some feedback on, and then we continued discussing. And again, no one can sit there and say that when this was proposed, my immediate response was no. And again, we're going to go through some of these down as well. But let me start off with this, is that what I later found out was that 6 of the current members of council were all in a behind closed doors chat room that not only included 6 members of council, but also included other officers and potentially other members, because I've heard reports from some people that in a big town hall that we had done as of yesterday. And during that town hall meeting, some people mentioned that there, I think it was 1 or 2, maybe 2 or 3 people that mentioned that there was about 38 or so, I think was a number that was thrown around, of players that were involved in these discussions, so to speak. And just to give you, right, a little bit of a visual here, right, here's just a brief recording, right, of that conversation that we had yesterday. You can see here, right, there's a lot of people that are here in this room. I don't think I can actually show how many, but it peaked at around mid to high 40s for the conversation for the town hall, and it lasted, from what I'm sure you could probably see there, a little over 4 hours. So it was really, I thought, to be a great conversation, a really good open discussion that allowed for people to voice their thoughts, concerns, questions, worries. And was just a good open forum after I had made the announcement. One of the things I will comment on that, though, about is, and I'm sure servers and kingdoms feel this way, is on average we were probably getting, I'd say 15 to 20, give or take, people that would consistently tune into town halls, right? Some projects I've done before, I've had it where there's been 60 to 90 people that tune into weekly town halls, right? So there's different levels of engagement depending on the groups that you're in, along with how you can continue to build on those numbers, right, through recruitment and other things like that as well. But it just goes to show you that when I had posted my server mail that I put out, letting people know that I was going to be stepping down, which I'll just show you here, right? So we said this is in 2 hours. I also said here, wherever this was, right, there's a big announcement. So I just keep in mind, I posted this announcement 23 minutes before our town hall started, right, where I said big announcement, what's happening, and then I posted I'm officially stepping down. We ended up getting, within 30 minutes of me posting that along with a Discord announcement, we ended up getting mid 40s to high 40s people that showed up to a town hall. This is not in a way to say that, again, in the same breath, to not say that, well, why weren't these people showing up before, right, to the town halls? What it simply is pointing out is that town halls are very important. They should not be taken lightly. And the challenge is that when we do things consistently and we do weekly town halls, for some players, they can view that as, oh, well, you know, this is just the process. I don't need to show up for everyone. I can just watch the recording. Trust me when I say showing up for these town halls in any server or kingdom, it should not be underestimated. I can tell you how amazing it was. I could not explain to you in a few words how amazing it was for some projects I've been a part of and have built, where we've had 60, 70, 80, 90 plus players tuning in to back-to-back weekly town halls, and how much that did, how much of a morale boost that was for the server in so many ways. And I just want to say that I just found it a little, I don't know if I want to say disappointing, but just unexpected to see. And again, within the same breath, understanding that the announcement I'm putting out almost warrants, right, as many people tuning in to a town hall. But it just would have been nice to see people to see more people care about the town hall, where they were able to, within 23 minutes, make time to attend a town hall and move their schedules around, whatever it may be. But even though we've always given people 24 hours in advance at almost every opportunity we've had, right, we still get about a third of those numbers. Just wanted to point that out. Outside of that, now let's go back to this. So, as I was saying, this was something where the whole I had a few, right, the individual, this was something that was discussed between a minimum of 6 council members, upwards of 38 people, including, if not all of officers, maybe possibly some other members, where it was said to us in the town hall by a few that this was something everyone came together on and agreed. Right, as far as they agreed on these changes, or as they would probably put it, wanting to see these changes. And the challenge here is that the way that this was presented was just a flat-out lie. Right, it was concealed in a mask of an individual coming out and presenting it, when really how this should have been worded is that us 38, even if it's bare minimum, us 6 members of council have all been talking for the past 2 weeks with each other, in addition to other members, and we have all came to a consensus on these are some of the proposed changes we want to bring. Now remember, you do not need to do a vote when you are proposing suggestions. A proposal is something that you put together and then you come in. It doesn't matter how many people are involved in it, right? But I have never come out in council and said, hey, I worked on this thing with 4 other members of council. This is what we put together. This is what we want to propose. No, I wouldn't do that, because it's like loading a deck of cards before you deal it out, right? This is what I refer to as a loaded proposal, where you already have the votes in your pocket. So it doesn't really make it a fair suggestion, a fair equal opportunity to where people can come to the table and actually have a fair discussion, right, where there's not any kind of manipulation that's happening behind the scenes, as this had, or as had been done. So again, there's a couple red flags here already, but let me just finish kind of going down some of the points one by one. In addition, these are all reasons that I'm going to talk about for why these are super big red flags, right? If you can have, and this has happened to a few other servers and kingdoms, because this was shared by a few members in our town hall yesterday that we did, is when you can have a group of people within your current governing body, right, in your current system, whatever system you might be applying to your server, And all they have to do is get together and say, hey guys, I really want to see this change. Do you want to see this change? Yeah, okay, cool. We all want to see this change. Okay, let's put this out there and make it happen. That in and of itself is dangerous. And it sets an unfortunate precedent where they're now opening Pandora's box. Because now one of the arguments can be, well, if it was so easy for them just to come together regardless of how much time it took, and just because they're all agreeing and aligned in the same approach, what is to stop that from happening again? What is to stop now, because I've stepped down? What happens if 4 or 5 of the council members decide, well, down the line, we want to make another change? Maybe they want to make a sooner or more immediate change. What is to stop them from now going behind closed doors again from the current council and doing the same exact thing? The answer is that there's nothing stopping them. And that is what I mean when the lack of trust, the lack of faith and respect has been lost, because I would never do what they have done. I will also, for record, state that once upon a time, I did do something similar to this, though it was not with as many people, and it was also brought forth stating that a few people were involved in this conversation. I just want to state that for the record. And I've seen how that has turned out, even though I did it in not as poor a favor as this was done. I saw the effects of that, and I learned from that. And unfortunately, this is something that I just don't know that they might see in the way that they went about doing it, and the processes and choices they made to get to this point. But anyways, neither here nor there. Let's go into number 1. I've really liked the recent change to a more vote-based changes, decisions in the server. Remember, this has never been a change. This is not a change. This is how we've always operated in the server, as I said before in the beginning. Right, I would assume, right, so this is like you give them an inch, they take a mile, right? In this situation, we did some votes because they were necessary, and it was also important to include every member of council in these, which is kind of the big 3 changes that we implemented. He then goes on to, I move. This is where taking the mile from the inch that was given, even though it really wasn't an inch. They just think it's an inch. I move that this continues for the future and we operate as a democratic council, each with an equal vote. So essentially this is doing 2 things, right? It is stripping the hierarchy power, or I don't know if I'd say hierarchy power, dear God, that sounds demonic, is stripping the hierarchy system that is in place, which essentially is saying, without saying, that you do not want me to have the choice of making the final call and decision on things and reserving the right at any time, if, and more importantly, when necessary, even though this has yet to be done, or I have yet to exercise this so-called right. The second thing is that now we're changing not only the hierarchy, but we're changing the governing embodiment of the system from what has up until this point worked flawlessly without anyone saying that it has not, or saying that they have completely disagreed with a change, action, or decision, whether it has been myself or that the council has put out together. Again, which for the most part, everything that we have done has been something that the initial members of council, along with current members of council, have either agreed to, or we went ahead after a discussion, and then nothing was said afterwards. Again, another red flag. And then we have, based on feedback, point number 2, based on feedback from other players and our need for extreme responsiveness in LOF, I move to change the management structure to the structure below. So again, this doesn't really kind of go into specific details on what they mean by extreme responsiveness in LOF. That would have been nice. Based on feedback, okay, what feedback? Again, we don't have to name names, but how many people? What was the general consensus of feedback that was received? And then what are the points that need to be addressed? Right? Let's talk about those. Let's find out what the source is. Instead of how this implies is that, oh well, we collected feedback. We think that the feedback we got is accurate. We're going to push for these changes. Again, doing it without me having any idea. Another big red flag. Based on the new structure, I'd move that we formalize the roles and responsibilities as well as the names. So I like how the individual is saying that I move that we formalize when, remember, It starts off as, I had a few suggestions / discussion points, but now we're moving to make things happen. We are moving to change. We are moving to formalize. That is not how you have an open discussion. That is not how you provide a proposal which is meant to then have a discussion about it. So what's happening is we're seeing direct contradictions in this post that unfortunately, for however many people, they're just not seeing this. Like, let's read in between the lines a little bit. You are seeing what is being stated, what was not said and intentionally left out, or if you want to give them the benefit of the doubt, accidentally left out. And then we get to where we're at now, where as we read and we dissect, we can see these just blatant contradictions and hypocrisy of what is being moved. If I look at this objectively, what I really see is either a grab for power or just a lack of self-esteem within the current system that you have been a part of and agreed to and have never said that you don't up until 2 days ago. So it is unfortunate when I see these things happen. The last thing I'll mention here is the add members to council, 2 members. This is something we talked about and we actually were in agreement of as well. Outside of this, what I will just say in conclusion is that there are no guarantees. Right, this is something you often hear me say. There's no guarantees when you do a project. There's no guarantees when you go into a server. There are only low and high percentage chances that you create for yourself based on, right, what you are looking to build. Remember, a lot of these players came with us, a good amount I should say, came with us from 36. Some of these people trickled over from S8 when I started in S6, right, which is one alliance. This is a vision I have built that I established the foundation, the structure for, and then we had a great team that wanted to join and be a part of that vision, be a part of what we have set up and what we built, because they wanted to be able to be a part of that and then also contribute and help in adding on to it. But the foundation, the vision, everything I wrote up beforehand, everyone was informed ahead of time, we were fully transparent, and it's just unfortunate that the view is that by some, we need to always be adaptable in every situation, or we need to be able to make, right, these are the counter arguments you often hear is, we need to be able to make change to these things, right? Core principles can be changed. I'll tell you what can't be changed, right? What is it, the 10 Commandments, right? The Constitution, right? These are foundational things that at their core, right, are things that, again, regardless if you want to debate, right, that they can be changed, some things should be changed, whatever it may be, I'm only simply pointing out that these are foundational pillars in which amendments and changes can and have been made on top of or in addition to. But remember, taking a little bit of that and not taking it for the black and white scenario that it is, because in these games that are called kingdom builders, not all kingdoms, just like not all countries in the world, are governed the same way, are ran the same way. And this goes back to what I was saying before on how there has to be a respect level and there has to be trust for the current system, for a system, whatever it may be, but the current system that is being applied and in place at its core foundation. And what I would say is that if there is a need to try things, and I can't remember if I've said this before or not, you are more than welcome to try those things in your own server. Right? Go and make a server, go and put all the work in that I have, and go and try and apply those things. And then if you see that they have worked, come back and let me know. And then we can consider making a change. But if I'm reading, if I'm driving on the highway and I know that if I increase my speed limit, there's a chance that I'm going to get pulled over and get a ticket, I'm not going to speed. So again, I'm not going to take that chance. Right, in the same breath, right? Just like someone who is a historian has seen trends of actions and decisions and processes that have played out that have led to negative outcomes, wouldn't decide to go down that same path because they've seen the trending history. Just like I would not choose to go down a path that I have seen trending and trended before in other kingdoms or servers, because I know the path that leads to, which is going to be a negative outcome in the highest percentage chance of cases that it will. And so leaning on people, whether it's myself or another, right, depending on the server or kingdom you're in, for players that have that knowledge, they have that experience and that wisdom because they've played these types of games and they have been in unique positions, like managing servers and kingdoms for long enough, which I can tell you, I could probably count on less than my hand, and the amount of people I have met across my many years of playing Kingdom Builders, and more specifically leading and managing servers and kingdoms for about the 8 or 9 that I have now, is that there's not many people I know of, in my experience, for people I've met personally, that I could say, have as much experience as I do, if not more. And that, at the same time, is not to say that it is because, again, I'm sure this argument might be introduced, a my way or the highway. What it is to present is utilizing a resource that is there to support you and every person in the server. And what good is a resource if we don't use it? And that is also not to say that one resource is the only resource. But at this time, there has not been a single decision, thankfully, that we have made as a council group, or that I have announced because it was just something that we were already going to go forward with, that has been viewed or has been shared to myself or has been brought up by anyone else that it was the wrong decision or it was the worst decision or we had a complete uproar of people. These are all red flags. And these are red flags in which, as I have mentioned before, have a high chance of trending in this direction. And I, for one, do not want to be a part of that when the level of respect and trust that has been broken between myself and the rest of the council and whomever else it may extend to within that group, are literally just on opposing sides at this point. And so, even though I wish 79 the best, and I hope they're able to continue and thrive in whatever new system or add-ons that they decide to make, it is not something that I believe in anymore. And I think every player is entitled to their happiness. And the one thing I will say is that I feel so sorry, and I do want to thoroughly apologize to all the players in S79, for those of you specifically that came to S79 because of our recruiting ad, because you spoke to me, because we had conversations, because the promise was there of that we were going to be building something different, and for how a lot of us felt better in a lot of ways for improvements we were making, and a lot of you believed in my vision, and I'm sure still do, for however many do, of what I had always been consistent on. And I will say my integrity is completely clean, and I am happy to say that I had followed through on what that vision had been up until this point. And I feel very happy about that. And that is something that if you are someone who felt the same way that I do, I appreciate you. And in the same breath, I am very sorry that things have played out this way. It is never my intention to leave a project unless there are literally crossroads that just cannot be crossed, or incrossable roads, or impassable, if I'm saying the same thing at this point. And again, that is where I feel the most for, is that part of me feels like the majority of the players were not thought about, or the player base was not thought about when these decisions were made by members of management, unfortunately. Outside of that, what I will say is that the great thing about Kingdom Builders as well is that all players, regardless of what server you're in, if you do not agree with things that are being done, you always have opportunities to sit there and collect passports in whatever way you want, especially if there's level 9 alliances that are available for you to do those things in, right? You can grab those over time, and you see how things play out, and it's really up to you as an individual, depending on how your server or kingdom has played out, on whether or not you're going to stay or you're going to leave. With that being said, again, that's pretty much it for me. I was actually trying to have this video be a little shorter, but I wanted to try and give as much context as I could in arguably the shortest possible way. So I do very much appreciate everyone's I do very much appreciate everyone's time if you have still made it here to the end of the video. Again, I will try and respond to as many comments as I can. And yeah, that's pretty much it for me. If anyone has questions, you're also feel free to reach out to me on Discord. I'm always happy to get into a voice call or chat with anyone. And yeah, we'll see. Maybe we'll do another project sometime in the future. I'm always a big believer that we can always make improvements and adjustments in areas to build on what we have already established a foundation for. And I think that's very important. Outside of that, that's it for me. Until next time, we'll catch y'all later.